I found myself in a deeply troubling situation with my sister-in-law, Lila, that began during what was supposed to be one of the happiest times in my life. After years of struggling with infertility, my husband Luke and I were overjoyed to learn we were expecting our first child. We had dreams and hopes for our baby, including a unique name that held special meaning for us. However, this joyous occasion quickly turned into a distressing ordeal due to Lila's interference. Initially, Lila seemed genuinely thrilled at the prospect of becoming an aunt. However, her excitement soon morphed into something unsettling. She repeatedly suggested names for our baby, all variations of her ex-husband Joe's name. Despite my discomfort with this, I tried to explain to her that Luke and I had agreed not to name our child after any family members, instead wanting something unique and special. While Lila expressed her hurt, I thought she would eventually come to understand our decision. Yet, she persisted, sending us lists of names linked to Joe, believing it would honor the family. This disregard for our boundaries escalated further when I experienced a minor pregnancy concern and needed medication. Lila offered to pick it up for me, and I reluctantly agreed, thinking perhaps she was genuinely trying to help. However, the following day, after taking the pills she provided, I felt dizzy and unwell, leading to a trip to the emergency room. There, doctors revealed that the medication I had received was not what had been prescribed. It was a significantly higher and riskier dosage for my pregnancy. Initially, I thought it was a pharmacy error, but my suspicions grew when I realized Lila had collected the pills. When I confronted her about the irregularities, I was met with laughter. Lila admitted to choosing a higher dosage herself, claiming it was a consequence of my refusal to name my child after her ex-husband. She insisted her intentions were to help, showing a shocking lack of awareness regarding the gravity of her actions. I was furious and terrified, realizing that her actions were not only unlawful but could have endangered both my health and that of my child. Although she eventually apologized, it felt insincere and self-serving. After discussing the situation with Luke, we made the difficult decision to take legal action. We filed a police report to document everything and informed Lila that we would be pursuing charges for tampering with my prescription. I hoped this would make her understand the seriousness of her actions. However, I was not prepared for the fallout that followed. As I took this stand, family relationships became strained, with Lila portraying herself as the victim and claiming ignorance of the distress she had caused. Some family members suggested we were overreacting by involving the police, but I firmly believed that tampering with medication was a serious issue that could not be overlooked. As time passed, I found myself feeling conflicted. I worried whether I was overreacting, especially since some family members expressed disappointment in my actions, claiming it was harmful to our family. However, I could not shake the feeling that Lila had crossed a significant line. Allowing her to continue this behavior felt like enabling her to interfere in our lives and jeopardize our safety under the guise of being helpful. While I regretted that it had come to this, I felt there was no other choice. Perhaps facing legal consequences would finally make her realize the severity of her actions. In the weeks that followed, I experienced a mix of relief and anxiety. I was recuperating from a difficult pregnancy while trying to navigate the fallout from my confrontation with Lila. I received an unexpected apology from her, during which she claimed she didn't intend for things to escalate and thought she was being helpful. Initially, I wanted to believe her sincerity, but just as I was about to accept her apology, she made a shocking comment that dismissed my concerns. It felt disingenuous and as if she was trying to shift the blame rather than take responsibility. Shortly after our conversation, I began hearing reports from other family members about Lila's claims. She was spreading rumors that my baby wasn't Luke's, alleging this was the reason I refused to name our child after a family member. This infuriated me. Not only was she attempting to justify her actions, but she was also creating confusion regarding my marriage and my child's paternity. When I confronted her about these accusations, she dismissed them as a misunderstanding and insisted she hadn't meant it that way. Lila has a history of downplaying her behavior and deflecting blame, and this felt like just another example of her manipulative tactics. As the situation continued to unfold, I was overwhelmed by the challenges of dealing with Lila's behavior and the misunderstandings it created within our family. While some relatives supported us, others criticized us for creating unnecessary drama, failing to grasp the seriousness of the situation. It was frustrating to feel so alone in my fight to protect my child while Lila spread lies and misinformation. I sought support from friends outside the family, whose encouragement reminded me that I had every right to protect my family. As my pregnancy progressed, I was put on bed rest due to complications, which meant I needed to minimize stress and focus on my health. However, Lila continued to make it difficult for me. Luke, recognizing how deeply the situation affected me, confronted her along with his parents, demanding that she cease her lies. They warned her that failure to comply would result in her being completely cut off from the family. We hoped this would help her understand the seriousness of her actions, but it only worsened the situation. Lila refused to listen, playing the victim and insisting she was merely trying to help. A few days later, Lila showed up at our home unannounced. I was lying in bed when I heard a loud crash at the front door. Before Luke could intervene, she barged in, accusing me of ruining the family. I was horrified and recognized the danger we were in. Luke quickly stepped in front of me, insisting that she leave, but the whole experience highlighted the severity of our predicament. After discussing it with Luke, we reached the decision to file a restraining order against Lila. This was something we never imagined we would have to do, but we could no longer ignore the reality of the situation. We needed to ensure our safety, especially with a baby on the way. Obtaining the restraining order was not straightforward. We consulted a lawyer who guided us through the necessary steps, and we began gathering evidence of Lila's actions, documenting every instance of misinformation and threats she made. As the stress mounted, my anxiety grew, and I found myself reflecting on how Lila's behavior might affect my baby. Luke took all necessary measures to protect me, explaining the situation to family members to clarify any confusion. While some supported us, others criticized us for creating unnecessary drama. They failed to understand that this wasn't just family gossip, it was about our health and safety. The situation strained our relationships with other family members, and I understood their desire for peace. However, I could not act as if everything was fine while Lila spread lies about us. I refused to let her destructive behavior dictate our lives. We were focused on securing the restraining order while navigating the complexities of family dynamics. Weeks passed as we worked toward obtaining the restraining order. I felt immense relief when we finally received it, but I knew this was just the beginning of a long journey. Shortly after the order was issued, Lila sent me a concerning email threatening to harm me and my baby if I went through with the restraining order. I was shocked and terrified, struggling to comprehend how someone I considered family could say such cruel and dangerous things. After documenting her threats, we went to court to file for the restraining order. During the hearing, I recounted everything that had transpired, from her interference with my medication to her gossip and threats. The judge listened attentively, and I felt hopeful that she would understand the severity of our situation. When we received the restraining order, it felt like an enormous weight had lifted from our shoulders. However, I was still uneasy about Lila's unpredictable behavior and worried she might attempt to contact me again. With the restraining order in place, Luke and I were now tasked with maintaining distance from Lila while not isolating ourselves from the rest of the family. This delicate balance was challenging. We wanted to avoid unnecessary drama while also ensuring our safety. Since Lila was aware of how to manipulate situations to portray herself as the victim, we cautiously navigated our interactions with family members. Despite the challenges, we remained resolute in our commitment to protect ourselves and our newborn. As the weeks passed, I gave birth to our baby boy, Neil. The joy of parenthood temporarily alleviated all the stress and fear I had been experiencing. However, Lila's behavior continued to be a source of concern. Shortly after Neil's birth, she showed up at our house, frantic and screaming, demanding to see her little Joe. I was still healing from childbirth when I heard her pounding at the front door. I felt terrified and powerless, especially as she accused me of denying her access to her baby and threatened to call Child Protective Services if I didn't let her in. In that moment, I knew I had to protect Neil. I took him into the bedroom and closed the door behind me as I dialed 911, explaining the situation, including Lila's restraining order and my concerns for our safety. The police arrived quickly, and I felt a wave of relief wash over me as help pulled up outside. The officers intervened as Lila attempted to break into the room. They managed to calm her down and, once I opened the door, I saw them speaking to her. I was too shaken to hear their conversation, so I remained in the bedroom with Neil, holding him and trying to soothe him. The police informed me that Lila's behavior was more concerning than I had anticipated. Neighbors had reported her for trespassing multiple times, and she had been acting suspiciously. Ultimately, Lila was arrested for violating the restraining order, and the officers deemed her actions significant. After they left with her, I felt safe enough to breathe again. Luke arrived shortly after, visibly concerned when he saw the police cars outside. He rushed in to check on me and Neil, and I felt immense relief at his presence. In the aftermath of the incident, we took steps to enhance our security, adding more locks to the doors and installing a security camera outside our home. The news of Lila's unpredictable behavior spread quickly, and family members reached out to check on us. While I appreciated their support, it was difficult to ignore Lila's attempts to gain sympathy. She began spreading lies, claiming we were overreacting and trying to turn everyone against her. As more family members learned about Lila's past and the reasons behind our actions, her attempts to elicit sympathy began to falter. We discovered she had a longer criminal history than we initially realized, involving numerous theft and fraud cases that family members had concealed to avoid disgrace. This revelation was shocking and led us to question what we truly knew about her. With her lies crumbling and her unpredictable behavior becoming public knowledge, most of her family distanced themselves from her. Lila has since been jailed for her recent offenses. After years of giving her second chances, those close to her finally recognized her true nature. Luke and I felt a sense of relief knowing she was out of our lives. We had firmly established that we would not tolerate any further contact or give her another chance to manipulate or harm us. While the entire situation has been challenging, the knowledge that we can move forward without her interference is a tremendous relief. We are dedicated to safeguarding ourselves and, especially, our infant from any future turmoil she may attempt to create. For the first time in what feels like an eternity, we can focus on our family and raising Neil in a safe, loving environment. Lila's absence has finally brought some peace to our family after months of tension and fear. As we concentrate on providing a nurturing environment for our child, we have learned the importance of setting firm boundaries and protecting our family. It is disheartening how things escalated with someone we once trusted, but we have gained valuable insights about safeguarding our loved ones. With Lila's previous actions no longer a part of our lives, we can focus on our peace and safety moving forward.